My last 6 years, I suppose, would be roughly in the Ministry of Health. It was been a bit longer than that though. I was involved with a lot of other health professions, and I became what you call a multidisciplinary health professional advisor, simply because they didn't feel there was enough work. We didn't have the same roles as far as advising to hospitals and different situations like that. And so some of the powers that be didn't feel there was a big enough role for an advisory physiotherapist in the Department of Health. So I became a multidisciplinary therapist, and that didn't worry me, and in fact I enjoyed it, because working in ICU and rehab, you're always a multidisciplinary therapist anyway to a certain degree, and you give and take. You back up somebody else's work that they're doing. If the OTs are doing dressing and with a patient, you make sure the patient dresses in the appropriate way that the OTs have taught them, and likewise. In fact, I was just going back a bit, when I was at Wellington Hospital and Rehab, we used to do combined assessments, the OT and the physio. Myself, we started doing those, and that worked great because we weren't repeating the same sort of assessment, putting through the patient through a double lot of assessment processes. But anyway, to go back to the ministry, I ended up being at one stage on 7 registration boards as a board member, the health department, ministerial appointment or representative, chiropractic, occupational therapy, psychologists, podiatrists, optometrists, medical radiation technologists, and the medical laboratory technologists. And I enjoyed all those boards, and we introduced through my influence professional competencies for podiatrists, chiros, optometrists, a bit harder there because of the university, and same as psychologists, very hard with the university input there that academia knows best. Medical radiation technologists and the medical laboratory technologists, we developed competencies for those as well over time. I was on the dietitians board for a while as well too. Goodness, that's another one. And one of the ones I always sort of feel quite special about was the chiropractic board. I enjoyed working on that board. The guys were great, and women when we had them. They seemed to think when we were doing competencies and we were developing the school in Auckland, they wanted the competencies done, so I had quite a heavy involvement with the guy that was developing the school up there. And they used to send me as their representative to Australia, because the Australian qualification was one they encouraged most New Zealanders to go to, the Bachelor of Applied Sciences in Melbourne. And then they would want to develop another course in Sydney. So they didn't know much about sort of educational processes and things, so they used to send me as their representative to the Australian meetings, the Australian-New Zealand joint meetings, which always amused me slightly. I often thought, I wonder how many of these chiropractors here know I'm a physiotherapist. But they were great to work with, and they just got on with the job and did what they had to do, and that's what I found was good with the chiropractic board too. They knew what had to be done and just got on with it, and that's what we did. And we used to have some pretty difficult hearings at times too, because we had some guys that came from the United States who had some rather interesting ways of practicing chiropractic. They were the ones that, the ones that you read about and the bizarre things, and we had some beauties to deal with. And I always felt that they got a lot of complaints, and the psychologist board got a lot of complaints. Not so much the others, but I always believed that maybe the physiotherapists weren't getting enough complaints in. And in fact, when you compared with a lot of what the medical council and different ones and dental council and so on received. But no, I'm sorry guys, but I enjoyed working with the chiros. They were really good fun and great team to work with. And as were all the others. The psychologists were a bit tricky because they all had master's qualifications or PhDs and things, and there were university qualifications. Yeah, no, that was difficult because they had the different fields and different streams, clinical, occupational psychology, educational psychology, all the different streams. So they were an interesting group. OTs I got on well with, and I've always gotten my best friends are OTs, and yeah, but we always fitted in well, and it was good. I enjoyed them. Just during that time of being on the other registration boards, I actually was not on the physiotherapy board until the very end, not long before I left, and then I was back as the chairman of the physiotherapy board for it was about 6 months, I think.